So guys, I'm continuing my keys to victory videos for the week's boxing. By now, Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter, tactical breakdown and keys to victory is up on the channel. It's just gone up, so please do check that out if you'd be interested. But this video is going to be discussing Anthony Joshua versus Dominic Breazeale, the tactics that both guys should employ and their keys to victory. Now, you know, this is a fight which I have always maintained is one-sided. And, you know, long-time viewers of the channel will know that I was quite critical of this fight when it was initially made. And I was actually quite critical of Dominic Breazeale as an opponent even before the fight had been made, and when Breazeale was one of a number of names, along with the likes of Bermain Stavern, Eric Molina, Bryant Jennings, etc., all which were being discussed as an opponent for Anthony Joshua. So, look, I'm not going to come out in this video and do a keys to victory on, you know, where I'm necessarily going to say to you that I genuinely believe Dominic Breazeale is going to win the fight, because I don't, and I've made that clear throughout. I will do a prediction video where I'll talk about what round I think the fight's going to end in and how I think the fight's going to end. But, you know, as you guys will guess, I'll be picking Anthony Joshua to win, and I don't think I'm going to do myself too much of a disservice by saying that at this stage. But what I'm going to do is, for this video, say, if I was training Dominic Breazeale, or if I was in the corner for Dominic Breazeale, and I acknowledge the people who are training him are obviously a lot better placed than myself, but if I was, I'm going to give the advice as to what tactics I would use if I was Dominic Breazeale. And I'll also do the same for Anthony Joshua. But let's start with Breazeale, because I guess the Joshua tactics are perhaps slightly more simple. So, if I was Dominic Breazeale going into this fight against Anthony Joshua, I would be trying to look at areas of Anthony Joshua that are currently untested. But Joshua looks like an exceptional fighter, he really does. But let's be honest, he is extremely untested. We're talking about a guy who has only been beyond 4 rounds once, who has never come close to going the distance in a professional ring. We are talking about a guy who, despite being world champion, has only taken one real punch in his entire career. And as such, even though Joshua's looked spectacular in the way he's took care of business, doubt remains over Joshua. Doubt remains over his stamina. Can he go to 12 rounds? Is his physique, is his heavy set build problematic for going a 12-round distance in the heavyweight division? How will he react when punched on the chin? You know, we saw it happen once and he was visibly shaken and took a few rounds off afterwards. So, yeah, potentially that's a weakness to him. Further sort of questions marks exist over him though. So, you know, what level of opposition has he been in with? Dillian Whyte, I guess you could say, is largely an unproven fighter at this point. You know, Dillian Whyte hasn't got any notable wins on his record. Charles Martin, you know, that was a farce of a fight, let's be honest. So, you know, if I was Dominic Breazeale, I would look at those things and think my job really is to test Anthony Joshua in a way he hasn't been tested before. And one of the key areas for that is trying to take him late in a fight, trying to make him go rounds, you know, trying to push his stamina to, you know, places it hasn't been before, and see what his heart, see what his resolve is like under that sort of pressure. That's what I'd be looking to do if I was Dominic Breazeale. I think Dominic Breazeale, you know, Dominic Breazeale has gone rounds before. I think he went 10 rounds with Fred Cassie, for example. You know, he has been late in a fight. He has got that experience already under his belt. And I think whilst Dominic Breazeale is a big guy, you know, he's 6'8", he's 18, 19 stone, he does carry some power. I don't think Dominic Breazeale is actually best served coming straight out in this fight and trying to throw bombs here. I think he's not got the athleticism and speed of Joshua. I think he'll be easy to counter. And even though Joshua is a bit untested around the chin, looking at the way Dominic Breazeale fights, I don't actually believe he is a huge power puncher. I mean, of course, Breazeale can hit a little bit. He's a very big guy. He's got a high KO ratio. But I'm not sure that he's got the kind of power that can just end Anthony Joshua with a single punch. So if I was Breazeale, my whole tactic in this fight would be around trying to take Anthony Joshua late. And I think the key for this is to acknowledge that Anthony Joshua is developing into a fighter who sets traps for opponents and who looks to counterpunch. I mean, even gloves are off in the build-up for this fight. He talked about how he was going to come out, how he was going to try and slip a jab, how he was going to counter Breazeale. And, you know, we've seen that time and time again. In the Charles Martin fight, we saw a tentative beginning from both guys. And when Charles Martin eventually looked to engage, Joshua tried to counter him. And Joshua does seem to be adopting that kind of approach in his fights. So if I was Dominic Breazeale, my methodology in this fight would be take Joshua late and aim to do that by not looking to engage aggressively in the first couple of rounds and trying to limit the potential to be counterpunched. So in terms of how you can limit the potential to be counterpunched, it's quick, straight punches. So you're jabbing and you're making sure the jab comes back to your chin. Tight guard, one, back. You're not throwing an uppercut, you're not throwing a wide hook. You know, punches like that are looping, that are coming wide, take much longer to arrive. And for a quick, athletic guy like Joshua, who seems to have very good reactions and counter-punching instinct, you know, they've got the time to sort of avoid those punches and throw a counter and catch you. So if I'm Dominic Breazeale, I'm thinking get the jab going, but be quick with the jab. You know, Breazeale's got a tendency to push out that jab, make it a bit slow, make it a bit sloppy. He needs to snap the jab out and bring it straight back. Really keep the punches straight, keep them going down the centre. You know, try and limit that potential of being counterpunched early on. You know, keep the range. Joshua's got very limited experience of not being the bigger man in there. He fought Gary Cornish, who was probably a bigger guy than him, but Cornish was out of there so quickly it made very little difference. You know, Breazeale, he's a very, very big guy, possibly bigger than Joshua. I'm thinking what Breazeale needs to do is get behind that jab, really limit the potential of getting counterpunched, defensively sound, defensively smart. I don't want to see any hooks, any uppercuts, any haymakers, any looping punches in the early rounds. Try and stay out of trouble. Try and, you know, get Anthony Joshua chasing him. Try and get Anthony Joshua into the 4th or 5th round and frustrate him. Have the crowd booing if that's the case. You know, make Joshua have to force the pace a bit more is what I'm getting at. Because I believe Joshua's biggest chink in his armoury at present is the untested stamina. I believe Joshua is also defensively imperfect, but I'm not sure Dominic Breazeale has the offensive capability to either take him out with one punch or to, you know, outbox him to the point he can expose those defensive frailties. I think Breazeale's bigger chance in the fight is not outboxing him, it's not knocking him out with one punch, it's taking him late and hoping Joshua wears down. Because, as you can probably guess from my analysis, fundamentally, I don't believe Breazeale has the boxing skill, I don't believe Breazeale has the athleticism or the power to get the win here in the conventional means. So if I'm Dominic Breazeale, I'm not looking to take gambles early when Joshua's most dangerous. Joshua is a wrecking ball in round 1. We've seen it time and time again. You know, he waits for you, he counterpunches you, and then he dominates you. Keep defensively sound. Take Joshua into the, even if it's to the 3rd or 4th round. You know, Joshua hasn't really been that far in a fight with a big man before. Let's see how he deals with it. I'm not saying Joshua's going to fall to pieces whatsoever, but you know, we know Joshua's a very good fighter. We know he's a wrecking ball in the early rounds. We know he carries power. We know he's got athleticism. We know a lot of good things about Joshua. What is unknown is the full extent of his stamina. And, you know, when I look at his build, when I look at the heavyweight division, when I look at the way he took rounds off against Dillian White, I start to wonder, is that a chink in his armour? So that's my keys to victory. That's my tactics for Dominic Breazeale, you know. Get the jab going, keep defensively sound, keep your punches straight and quick, bring your hands back, limit the chance of being counterpunched. Don't look to engage overly early. You know, take it into the 4th and 5th round if you can. Try and keep distance, and you know, you never know what's going to happen. You bought yourself a lottery ticket because Joshua in the later stages of a fight is so unknown. He could have a complete collapse. He could be more vulnerable to your punching power at that stage. As for Anthony Joshua, you know, the keys to victory for Anthony Joshua are really, really obvious. He's got a huge athletic advantage here. He's got a huge power advantage. He's got a huge speed advantage. I actually think he's got a boxing advantage as well. Put simply, I believe if Joshua can do what he's done in all of his other fights, he will stop Dominic Breazeale. I don't think Dominic Breazeale can live with his power. I've seen him hurt by a much smaller man in his 40s in Amir Mansour. Amir Mansour can punch, but I'm not sure he can punch like Anthony Joshua. You know, I don't think Breazeale has much to trouble Joshua. So the keys to victory for Anthony Joshua are simple. Hit Dominic Breazeale on the chin several times and he's gone. You know, I believe it's that simple. I don't believe he's going to have the boxing capability to keep Joshua off. I don't believe he's going to have the punch resistance to live with Joshua's power. You know, we've seen him hurt. We've seen him wobbled in fights before. We've seen him nearly out of there in the Mansour fight. I think that's the key to victory for Joshua. And I think Breazeale really, his best chance in the fight, try and make this go late. Play on the fact that Anthony Joshua may not want another early stoppage. Maybe he wants to put a show on for his crowd. Maybe, you know, he wants to feel like he's giving value for money. You know, play on that. Keep your range. Don't get counterpunched. Keep your defences tight. Try and take it to the later rounds, and we'll see what happens with Joshua's stamina. That's what I'd be saying if I was in Breazeale's corner. As I say, the people who are actually in his corner, obviously far more knowledgeable than myself. So let me know your thoughts. What would be the tactics you would give either guy, you know, going into this fight? Anthony Joshua, I'd say to him, don't be complacent. You know, don't overlook Breazeale. Do what you've done in the other fights. Use your advantage. You know, use your athleticism, your speed, your power. Get into that three-quarter range. Time him. Knock him out. Dominic Breazeale, I'd be saying, you can't outbox this guy. You know, he's got a lot of natural advantages. Let's take him late. Let's stay in this fight and let's buy ourselves a lottery ticket. If you're there in round 5, if you're still on your feet in round 5, who knows what is going to happen to Anthony Joshua in the second half of the fight. That's my thoughts, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and many thanks for watching.